All right, Rangers fans, buckle up, because we've got some absolute belters to dive into today. Chris Sutton's at it again, stirring the pot. Before we take on Spurs, typical Celtic banter, eh? Chris Boyd's dropped a bombshell about the Celtic showdown, calling a win for us a shock. And that's just the start. There's transfer drama too. Rangers are eyeing up a £5 million winger that Jose Mourinho himself reckons is top-notch. But with Clement admitting we're skint, what's the plan there? And speaking of transfers, Hagi's had his say on a Fiorentina return. Just as he's hitting form, could we lose him again? Plus, Clement's been brutally honest about the club's struggles to seal permanent deals. Loans are great and all, but are we setting ourselves up to lose big players like Cerny? Stay with me, because we're diving into every bit of this, and I've got a spicy question at the end for you. You don't want to miss this. Well, my friend, it looks like Chris Sutton's at it again, eh? Always got to stir the pot when it comes to us, hasn't he? Typical of a former Celtic man. This time he's taking a cheeky swipe, asking if Ange Postecoglou would keep his job, even if Spurs somehow pulled off an 8-0 battering of Rangers. Sutton, very original. Now, Robbie Savage, to be fair, was more like one of us for a moment there. He's properly buzzing about the match, calling it a big one, and he's not wrong. Tottenham might be having a bit of a wobble lately, what with their 3-game winless streak in the league and that scrappy 2-2 draw against Roma in the Europa League. Meanwhile, we're on a right proper roll, 8 games unbeaten, a solid 3-0 against Ross County, and a cracking 4-1 over Nice in our last European outing. Momentum, we've got it in spades. Clement's got some decisions to make, though. No Hagi or Danilo for this one. Bit of a shame, as they've been superb lately. But Hamza Igamani's been absolutely on fire, hasn't he? 4 goals in 4 games. Not bad for a lad settling into the team. Then there's the backline puzzle. Souttar and Balogun have been solid, while Proper's still trying to find his feet. So Sutton's digging at us, Savage is hyped, and Spurs are limping their way to Rangers. A historic night at Rangers. It's all there for the taking. Here's the real question, though. If we do get one over Spurs, would that prove Clement's Rangers are already better than Postecoglou's Spurs, or would some still make excuses for them? Chris Boyd pulling no punches, saying it'd be a shock if Rangers turned over Celtic in the League Cup final. That's a bitter pill for us to swallow, isn't it? Imagine the state of things when one of our own reckons we're the underdogs against them lot. But fair's fair, it's not been the best season so far, has it? Sitting 3rd in the league while they prance away with it, it's hardly where we'd want to be. Clement's got the boys looking sharper recently, but we're still a far cry from being the dominant Rangers we know we can be. The question is, can he pull off a Hampton masterclass on the 15th? It'd be a proper statement, that's for sure. But let's not dance around it. This whole shock narrative, it's a sign of how far we've let things slip. That's not the Rangers' way, is it? Boyd's right about one thing, though. There's no excuse for us to be in this position. We've got good players, more than capable of stepping up. It's just not clicked often enough. Clement's got a chance now to prove he's the man to get us back to our rightful place, starting with shutting up Celtic at Hampton. Here's one for you, though. If we lose to Celtic, should Clement's time be up? Or is it time the board starts taking the heat for this mess? John Souttar, the big man at the back, doing the business again and keeping things tidy in that 3-0 stroll over Ross County. He's been immense this season, hasn't he? Rock solid for us and for Scotland too. No wonder there's all this chat about a new deal. Clement's already laid his cards on the table, calling Souttar the best defender we've got this season. Hard to argue with that, given the consistency he's shown while others have been in and out of form. Now, Clement's clearly a fan of the lad, talking about how he's improved in everything from handling the ball to winning his duels. That's the kind of praise that doesn't come cheap, especially with Clement being so vocal about wanting to keep him long-term. But here's the thing, Souttar's playing it cool, isn't he? Game by game, he says. Classic footballer line that doesn't give much away, but it does make you wonder if he's keeping his options open. The question is, with over a year and a half left on his current deal, should we be throwing everything at him now to lock him in? Or do we risk another one of our key players having their head turned down the line? So here's the kicker for you lot. If Souttar doesn't sign a new contract soon, is it a sign of trouble at Rangers or just a player being smart about his future? So we're being linked with Ogu's Aiden, are we? A lad who's got Jose Mourinho himself waxing lyrical. Now, that's a bit of a curveball, isn't it? You don't often hear Rangers and Mourinho in the same sentence unless he's having a cheeky dig at Scottish football. But here we are, apparently we're one of 3 clubs sniffing around the Fenerbahce winger, along with Rennes and AEK Athens. Now, the boy's got versatility. He's naturally a right-footed right winger, but can shift over to the left if needed. Sounds handy, doesn't it? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Turkish giants shelled out £5 million for him not long ago, and they'd likely want the same back. That's a big chunk of change for us, considering we're not exactly swimming in cash these days. And here's the kicker, Mourinho's called him a player who's hit his optimal level quicker than expected. That's high praise from the special one, but it does make you wonder, why would Fenerbahce let him go if he's finally delivering for them? Feels a bit ambitious, doesn't it? Almost too good to be true. And don't forget, he's under contract until 2028, so they've got all the leverage. It's exciting to see us linked with players of this caliber, though. If we're serious about bringing in someone like Aiden, it suggests the board's ready to back Clement properly in January. Or maybe it's just a case of our name being thrown into the mix to drum up interest. Here's a proper talking point for you. Should Rangers be spending £5 million on a winger when other areas of the squad are screaming out for reinforcements? Or is this the kind of signing we need to close the gap at the top? Hagi, eh? The man's like a phoenix rising from the ashes, isn't he? Nearly out the door in the summer, and now he's back, pulling the strings and showing us why we fell in love with him in the first place. 4 assists in 4 games. He's been absolutely crucial to Rangers' resurgence. You'd think we'd be celebrating him sticking around, but instead we're already worrying about losing him again. Typical Rangers drama, isn't it? He's been talking about Fiorentina, where he had his first crack at the big time. Only 2 games there, but he reckons it was pivotal for his growth. Fair enough, the lad's sentimental about it, but then comes the classic line, in football, you never know. That's basically footballer code for, I might have one eye on the exit. And with Fiorentina fans still chirping at him to come back, you can't help but wonder if his head could turn. It's not like we're flush with leadership and creativity in the squad either, is it? Hagi brings both in spades. Clement's got to be chuffed with how he's stepped up, especially with the squad being a bit light on players who know what it takes to win at Rangers. But there's the rub. If he keeps this up, how do we keep hold of him? The summer was proof that we're not exactly raking it in from player sales, and Fiorentina could be sniffing around again. Here's a juicy one for you. Should Rangers cash in on Hagi if the money's right? Or would selling him send the wrong message about the club's ambitions? Are the eternal struggle at Rangers balancing ambition with a shoestring budget? Philippe Clement's laid it all out, hasn't he? We've got quality in the likes of Václav Cerny, who's been a revelation since coming in, but the club couldn't scrape together the pennies to make his deal permanent. Same story with Abdallah Sima last season, by the sounds of it. Wanted to stay, loved the club, but when it came to wages and opportunities, we couldn't compete. It's a tough pill to swallow. Cerny's been worth every bit of the hype. Wolfsburg reportedly want £3.8 million to make his stay permanent, which isn't outrageous for a player of his caliber. But let's not kid ourselves. The club's track record of wasting money in recent years means we're playing catch-up. That's why we're still relying on loans instead of securing top talent outright. Sima's another frustrating example. He's gone on to boost his value, with Champions League exploits, and we're left thinking, what if? Imagine both Seema and Cerny tearing it up for us at the same time. It's the kind of dream scenario that's all too rare these days at Rangers. Clement's right about one thing, though. We need to be smarter, less reliance on loans, more focus on turning short-term signings into long-term assets. But will the board back him, or are we destined to keep scrapping for scraps while other clubs with bigger wallets swoop in? So here's a proper poser for you. Are Rangers stuck in a cycle of short-term fixes because of poor decisions in the past? Or is this just the harsh reality of modern football for clubs outside the top leagues? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.